Get together, sir.
I gotta go down to Miami Friday morning.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome everybody to the December 11th, 2019 meeting of the Ascension Parish Planning Commission. All commissioners are present. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we get staff introduction, please?
Ray West, Secretary for the Planning Commission.
Jerome Fournier, Director of Planning and Development.
Eric Poche, Parish Planner.
Lance Brock, zoning official.
Sean Chereau, Engineering Review Agency.
All right, moving on to comments. I just have one comment tonight. And in this season of Christmas, it seems like our days are filled with 143 different tasks at least. Whether it's shopping for Christmas, going to various parties, maybe 2 or 3 in a night, or just the hustle and bustle of getting work done for the end of the year closeout. Obviously, this is our last meeting of the year. And as we close out this year, next year will be a different parish government due to the elections last year, or last month, I should say. So I just want to take a moment to wish everyone here, including my fellow commissioners, all the joy of the Christmas season and a very happy new year to all of you. And those are,
Same to you.
thank you. And those are my comments. Item number 6 is a public comment on any agenda item. We have a couple of public hearings, but if there's anyone here to speak on anything that's on the agenda that's not scheduled for a public hearing, you may speak now. Ms. Stacy, is anyone signed up?
No.
Then we will move on to number 7, general business, and number 8, staff report, the subdivision status as of December 11th, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in front of you in your packet the status of the subdivisions as they are today. As always, any with asterisks by them have had changes from the previous month. You'll notice that Evelyn Estates, you rescinded the preliminary plat for that one at last month's meeting. The only other item of note that any of you may have a question on is Forest Woods. You'll notice they had a preliminary plat approval date of February 14th of 2018. They are waiting to take care of a couple of items before they get they're finalizing their construction drawings. They're pretty much done. There's one little issue they're trying to take care of, but I don't see them having any problem with having their pre-app and starting construction before the 2-year deadline. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to the engineering staff report. Mr. Chereau?
There's no report.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 10 on the agenda is a motion to approve or deny the minutes and written decisions of the November 13th,
Motion to approve?
2019 Planning
Second.
Commission meeting. Motion by Mr. Schexnayder, second by Mr. Bishop. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item number 11 is the consent agenda. 11A is the affidavit of mortgage declaration for Joshua Major, Lot S1, 11374 Stevenson Road in Gonzales. Item number 11B is a final plat approval for Oaks on the Bluff Estates, Centerline Engineering and Land Surveying LLC. This is in Council District 8. Item number 11C is a final plat approval for the Ascension Commerce Center 6 filing by Quality Engineering and Surveying LLC in Council District 3. And item number 11D is a final plat approval for Germany Oaks Phase 2, Quality Engineering and Surveying LLC in Council District 11. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Adumas, second by Mr. Furman. All in favor? Aye. Any in opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right, item number 12 is a public hearing to approve or deny the following family partition. 12A is the Damien A. Bourgeois property, lots B1A1 and B1A2. Ms. Jackson from McGlynn Taylor, you are here for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I need to announce I need to recuse myself for this.
all right. Mr. Schexnayder has recused himself, so we will vote as a body of 6. Ms. Jackson.
Ellen Jackson with McGlynn Taylor Incorporated, asking for your approval.
Staff?
All comments have been addressed, and the property division does meet the requirements of the family petition.
All right, we will open a public hearing on this matter. Has anyone signed up to speak on this, Ms. Stacy?
No.
All right, we will close the public hearing. Do we have a Questions, comments, and/or motion from the commission?
I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Dumas. Second by Mr. Bishop. All in favor? Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. All right, item number 13 is a public hearing to recommend approval or denial to the parish council amendments to the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code. 13A is an ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, LDC Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-40100, definitions, commencement of construction. Mr. Fournier, excuse me, I had a brain fart there for a
There you
second.
go.
Oh, I don't know if I can say that
No
on
problem.
TV.
It's that
Anyway.
time of the year, it's this holiday season. These two ordinances go hand in hand, and I just wanted to bring this back. This is something you asked us to bring back to you, based on some of the discussion we had at the last meeting. The commencement of construction is a new definition that we would like to place in the ULDC, and this kind of falls in line with some of the conversations we've had before about when does a project start, when are we able as a commission to revoke the preliminary plat because they have not started construction. So I think this all falls hand in hand. This, what you have in front of you is the actual definition of the commencement of construction. This was drafted by Cody Martin, our attorney, with some input that we had as staff. And I think this is probably as good a definition as I've seen out there on the street. So I'm open for any questions. Cody could not be here. I think he had a conversation with some of you guys on the commission today about this. So I'll answer as many questions as I can possibly, but not being an attorney, I won't go into depth on this.
All right, are we gonna talk about both sections at one time, or should we just doing one at a time? Because I was gonna do them separately.
I think you should, because they're two separate items on the agenda.
Okay. All right, we will, and of course, this is just a recommendation. We can't pass any laws. That's the council's province. So we will open a public hearing on this. Ms. Stacy, has anyone signed to speak on item number 13A?
Yes, Derek Murphy.
Mr. Murphy.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. I just saw this right when I got here this afternoon, and just wanted to make a couple comments, if I may. I thank you for your time. The only thing that really stands out to me is one word, is the irreversible. If substantial clearing is done on a project, that's not an irreversible item because it can grow back. That is a commitment when you're looking at the amount of money it takes to clear a piece of property, or especially if you have to burn it on site, it's pretty substantial, over $10,000 an acre. So they are spending money, but that could be considered by some as not an irreversible deal. Other than that, don't really have an issue with this. This is something that's been talked about a good bit, but that is a concern because that is not something that is a permanent part of the infrastructure, but it is necessary in order to start the construction.
That's a valid point.
Anyone else signed up to speak on this? All right. We will close the public hearing. And any questions, comments, and/or motion by the commission?
Just to maybe address Mr. Murphy's concern, because I did speak with Cody about this, because I was concerned about some of the language being maybe a bit vague, but the language was pulled from some case law, and I looked at the case law, and I think this language tracks pretty good with that. As far as the clearing of the land goes, there, and really this goes hand in hand with the next change, but the commission would still have the ability to grant an extension, I believe, under the next revision. So if that's something where I think what's contemplated here is you would come back, if the, I guess, staff determines or it's determined that maybe commencement of construction has not begun, that would come back to the commission for determination as to whether that did or did not meet that, and we would look at things such as the invoices, the scope of work, the contracts, that stuff, and if a substantial financial commitment was put down to do something like clearing of land, if it's that substantial, then it would meet that definition, and I think the commission make that determination at that time. But it's the definition is worded in such a way so as to give some flexibility to the commission to be able to look at projects on a case-by-case basis and determine, you know, what was done and whether that meets that standard. And it tracks with the case law that Cody researched to come up with the definition. So the only other thing I think, there was some expressed to me by someone else on the commission that maybe they would like to include where it says the term does not include in that list, to add surveying and topographical analysis in there as well, to require something more than just surveying or topographical analysis to be considered a commencement of construction. So I don't know if we could.
Are you making a motion to recommend it with the condition, or with a,
Well, I'll let anybody else speak before
Okay.
any motions. I don't know if anybody else wants to speak on it. I don't want to deprive anyone of an opportunity to have any discussion.
any other questions or comments?
Well, I don't know that adding survey and topographical analysis is significant enough investment to justify commencing on construction. For irreversible commitment, I think that's important. I mean, if you just clear the land, there are some environmental considerations. You have to deal with the runoff, and so someone just clearing the land, they invest construction, but yet they don't construct. We now have a lot of runoff into the ditches and stuff like that, and we know drainage is a problem in the parish. So I like the way it is, and I think it's reasonable. To your point, Commissioner, there's plenty of flexibility in it for the commission to work with. So I think that it's well written.
Yeah, and I guess just to clarify, survey and topographical analysis is where it says the term
Yeah.
does not include. So
not
if
include,
we
right.
added that, then yes, that would not be included under
Right.
the.
No, I don't think we need to. That's indifferent. So it's.
I think
no
the
big
list is not exclusive, that these are
Right.
the things that are not. I think it is more exemplary of, well, we know these things are going to be excluded, but also any other thing that's not substantially, or does not present a permanent and substantially irreversible commitment to physically construct property.
deal. Right.
I mean, that's, I would only suggest that maybe the term, I might make that a little bit more open-ended. I would say maybe the term does not include the following non-exclusive actions. That way, it leaves us room
Yeah.
to,
No, that makes sense. Yes.
that way, that makes an exemplary list, not, it could be construed like it is as being these are the things that don't represent, and only the things, so.
Okay.
Mr. Funia, you had a question, comment?
Well, then, if nobody else has any comment, I would like to make a motion to approve the definition of 17-40100, commencement of construction, as introduced, except for where it says the term does not include, add in, so it says the term does not include the following non-exclusive actions, and then go with the list that's already there.
We have a motion by Mr. Chasson, second,
I'll second it.
by Mr. Dumas.
Just in the interest of clarification, you're making a motion to recommend to the parish, to the council.
Yes.
Yes.
The motion is to recommend to the council this addition to the Louisiana, or the Land Development Code for the parish, this language with the addition that Mr. Chasson said. So a motion by Mr. Chasson, second by Mr. Dumas, all in favor? Aye. Any in opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right, 13B is the ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4 subdivision regulations, Section 405.H, pertaining to preliminary plat procedures. Mr. Fournier.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is a revision to an existing portion of the Unified Land Development Code. I think the major changes on here is that instead of having the final plat, we're looking at 6 months from the preliminary plat approval. It was some cleanup language that we had in the first paragraph. The other thing is that we're going for a period of 18 months instead of 24 months for the commencement of construction. So those are the two big items, I think, that that's here. Yeah, the rest of it's somewhat self-explanatory.
We'll open a public hearing on this. Ms. Stacy, anyone
No.
signed up to speak? We'll close the public hearing on this. Questions, comments? Yes,
Yeah,
Mr.
I did
Chesson.
have two proposed revisions, and I've already talked with Cody. Under the H where it says 6 months preliminary plat approval, the Planning and Zoning Commission, it says shall have the right to either grant the extension or to rescind approval, just to delete have the right to, so it just requires action on the commission, says you shall either grant the extension of time or rescind the approval, rather than have the right, that it just forces us to take some action. It doesn't say which one you have to take, but just forces that to take some action. And then the second revision is the sentence under 1, after all the strike-throughs, to revise that next sentence so it reads, the planning department or engineering review agency shall notify the planning commission of any subdivider that has not started commencement of construction within the 18-month duration. And that's mainly to make, this says commence construction, the defined term is commencement of construction. So just to rewrite that sentence so that it's using the defined term, just to clear up that that's what it's referencing.
Okay.
So that would be my two suggested revisions to this.
Any questions, any other questions or comments?
The only question I have is, by requiring us to make a definitive action, you're going to have to then bring these things back to us. Do you have to advertise it? Do you have to go through all of that process?
It'll be advertised along with the agenda, I mean, just as a public meeting. It's not a public hearing that will be conducted on this, is my understanding.
Well, if we're taking action on the matter, we would be, I mean, if we're taking formal action on it, wouldn't we require a public hearing? We're essentially bringing the application back and to revoke it, right?
Well,
Not to revoke.
no, my
Or to
To take
extend
some
it.
action.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that was the intent to begin with from Cody, was to say if they do not submit the plans within 6 months, then it comes back to the commission to do one or the other, but it wasn't really, the language wasn't as tight as it probably should have been. And so this was just to tighten up the language to say we have to do one or the other. They have to come back to the commission, and then we can either vote to grant an extension, which I think we've done pretty much most of the time, or rescind it.
Staff is of the opinion that it doesn't require a public hearing, but
Okay.
I can check on that with Cody, but that's our understanding of it right now.
I think the only thing that would be required is notification to the developer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that he can come in and defend himself. But I don't know that this is public hearing.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure, that's all.
All right. And I'll make a motion to recommend the council approve the proposed revision to section 17-405.H with the following changes to what was placed on the agenda. The first change is in the third line, have the right to shall be removed from the ordinance as recommended to the council. And then under the subsection 1, the sentence that starts, the planning department should read, the planning department or engineering review agency shall notify the planning commission of any subdivider that has not started commencement of construction within the 18-month duration.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Chasson, second by Mr. Schexnayder. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 14 on the agenda.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn. Meeting is adjourned. We will be back in just a few minutes with a zoning meeting.